I know there's so many people out there right now that are dealing with the same thing. It's good. Thankfully, Mayor Pete, our transportation secretary, is on the case.
Maybe having somebody in charge of the transportation administration who knows anything about this. I mean, you could pick a stranger at random on the street who probably knows more about how to do an oil change and knows more about the basics of transportation than Mayor Pete.
Buck, I had an awesome time other than the travel disaster, which I'm going to mention in a moment. I was down in Fort Lauderdale for the Sunshine Summit. I met a lot of our listeners, Florida Republican Party event. I was out to dinner with Carol Markowitz, Molly Hemingway, Dave Rubin, Lisa Booth.
This is some
Friday
of the greats,
night. We had
my
an
friend.
amazing.
That
was awesome.
This is like I was going to say the Yankees but I can't think of the year. But whenever they had Babe Ruth.
I was sitting there. We were all talking about what was going to happen in the 2022 election, everything else. Over Carol and Molly's shoulder, Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram walks in, former Alabama football player, and I was like, sorry, I got to interrupt you guys. We got a Heisman Trophy, and nobody cared. I felt like Buck, you should have been there too. Like Lisa, I didn't even know Lisa went to the University of Tennessee. And I was like, you should know, more about this than you do. And nobody cared about NFL royalty, basically. There's not a lot of Heisman Trophy winners walking right into the restaurant where we were. So it was awesome. So much fun, a lot of optimism, so much discussion about Florida sending a message in 2022 to the rest of the nation with the DeSantis election. But, Buck, I've got young kids, I talk about them a lot. It's a big part of my life. So if I can get back early, I try to get back early. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back Saturday evening. I'm going to be able to have all day Sunday with them. I'll be, back home in time to basically see them in bed. I had a 7:30 flight out of Fort Lauderdale, and I had so far avoided all disaster. Got to the airport at 12:30 a.m. Entire airport is empty. Southwest Airlines, tons of our listeners, by the way, on that airplane too. Lots of people with young kids. I've never had this announcement before, but this is not an announcement you want to hear, Buck. I'm curious if you've ever heard it. They said, hey, your flight crew is flying in from Washington, D.C. That's never a good sign when your plane is parked there and your flight crew is not there. And they said, so I've had that happen before, but they said when the pilot lands, he gets to make the choice of whether he stays here or he gets on your plane and flies you back to Nashville. They said, we don't know what choice he's going to make. Have you ever heard of this? We don't know what choice he's going to make till he lands. The plane lands like in the gate next to us. The flight attendants all get on the plane. The pilot just basically, you can see him like waving his hands. He's like, I'm out. He leaves. They cancel the flight at 12:15 in the morning after people have been waiting there for over 5 hours, waiting to see what this pilot's going to do. And the flight just ceased to exist. And so then pandemonium basically sets in. I flew out the next morning, but a lot of the parents there, it's crazy, slept in the hotel, slept at the airport with their babies and everything else. I don't know what's going on with airplane travel, but it's broken right now. And I know a lot of people out there listening, traveling in the summer, know what I'm talking about.
My little brother was just over in the UK for a business trip. And I think he told me they canceled it. This is the international flight, okay? They canceled it when he got to the airport 3 separate times. So and Heathrow Airport has also been a total mess. So it is
They're
not
limiting how many people can even get inside of Heathrow Airport right now. It's a total disaster.
So it's not limited to U.S. air carriers. It is the airline industry overall in general right now seems to be in really rough shape, or certainly in America and Western Europe. And I've talked to people. We'll probably be hanging out with Carrie's dad, who's a former Top Gun instructor, but also a commercial airline pilot. And I'm just curious to see what he has to say about it, because it's happening all over the place. I've dealt with, and now it's also become this almost this game where everyone sits there and the pilot will come on. Because I've had multiple cancellations on the plane ready to go.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
On the plane
too.
ready to go. And like we taxi out a little bit, and you're waiting for that little jolt you get when you get sort of sent back into your seat. You're about to take off, and all of a sudden the pilot comes on. He's like, "Yeah, we've got a loose who's it, what's it?"
Yeah,
and,
that's the worst feeling.
We don't have a ground control crew to look at the who's it, what's it right now, so we're gonna take a 2-hour touchback. I'm sorry, folks. You go through this whole thing. You say, get the who's it, what's it? I mean, what is going on here? This is crazy. Like, you got 100 people on this plane who are all supposed to go somewhere. You're just figuring out now that there's a loose knob in the bathroom. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, and look, Buck, on the cancellation that happened at 12:15, I'm walking out of the airport because I was lucky. I already had a hotel room. I went back and just came back the next day. And also, it was just me, so I don't have kids to worry about. But there was a mom and a dad walking with 2 young kids next to me, and they got an alert on their phone, and she pulled it up, and she was like, oh, they rebooked me Saturday night, right? Just turning in 12:15 in the morning, going into Sunday. She said the earliest they could get me out of Fort Lauderdale on Southwest Airlines was Tuesday afternoon. So she was supposed to fly out Saturday evening. They rebooked her for Tuesday afternoon with her family. She's like, what are we supposed to do? Like 3 days extra to get out of this place? And there were no rental cars. Everybody was trying to get rental cars. It got so nasty. I was walking out and I was like, I just want to get out of here. That they brought in the cops because people were like losing their minds over the fact of how long it was going to take to get out. And it was a totally empty airport by the time I left. And I know there's so many people out there right now that are dealing with the same thing. It's thankfully Mayor Pete, our transportation secretary, is on the case.
Maybe having somebody in charge of the transportation administration who knows anything about anything about this. I mean, you could pick a stranger at random on the street who probably knows more about how to do an oil change and knows more about the basics of transportation than Mayor Pete. And so you sit here and you say, once again, to bring us back to let's not use the recession word, what is better now at this stage of the Biden presidency than before Biden was president? I mean, people would say, oh, but COVID, okay. But they haven't defeated COVID, and more people died in Biden's first year than in Trump's last year, which should not have happened, but they told, and they've never explained that, I would also note. What is better now? Your gas prices are much higher. Inflation is a huge drain on family budgets. You can't fly anywhere. Cars, I just spoke to my brother. He says he's got friends that want to buy a car down in Florida, and there's a waiting list. Even if they're
trying to get back my leased vehicle.
Yes.
I got a leased car, and they keep calling me like, hey, will you please bring back? And I'm like, no, because then I won't have a car. Like, they're trying to get my leased car back, and they're offering me more money than I was paying on my lease.
The value of cars right now that the manufacturer is setting, people are paying 20-30% over. Is it MSRP? Is that what the manufacturer sets?
Yeah, and some of these cars, like a Ford Bronco, have you seen these things? Like, they're selling for like $20,000 over list.
That's what I mean. It's getting crazy.
It's crazy.
And you're waiting and you're saying, hold on a second. How is all of this such a mess? And we're supposed to have the smart people in charge who are fixing everything. It's all gotten worse, folks. You're not imagining this. These people are idiots, okay? I'm just going to say it. The people making the decisions at the top. Joe Biden's a moron. He always has been. He's not good at anything. And yet they made him president. He's too old and too dumb, and they made him president. And look at what is happening.
The Bidas touch, 500,000 getaways at the southern border, by the way, already, Buck. They don't, you're right. It's almost impossible to even point to anything that is better. In fact, I can't think of anything.
Can I tell you
that is better since
just
Joe
one
Biden
thing on the Gotaway? I spoke to a friend of mine at Border Patrol last week. Okay, last week. We were talking about this. He thinks the number, he told me, closer to 1 million gotaways.
Yes.
That means closer to 1 million people. Because remember, the gotaways is officially people that they know they can't get.
Yes.
The people they don't even know about who are coming in under cover of darkness, who are being run through by the cartels and in trucks and more sophisticated means of ingress, they think it's more like 1 million. That's what Border Patrol actually thinks. So the official number of people that are not even being detained is higher. But yeah, no, great job, Biden. You know, he's doing great work really across the board. All the libs on CNN and MSNBC, they must feel really good about their decision-making at this point. Of course they do, because they're delusional.